Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming here today. For the past 3.5 months, the city of Wilmington has experienced a growing gang problem and battle between two groups. Our intelligence has told us that they are the Bloods and the Crips. Within these groups, certain sects are battling over women, drugs, and territory. They also launched an effort to retaliate against witnesses in one of our gang-related cases. As a result of the gang violence, we've had 2 young men shot and killed, 1 deputy seriously injured, and dozens of shots fired as a result of this battle. We do not believe these shootings were random acts of violence. Many were targeted because of their ties to gangs and drugs. During the past few months, we have made more than 100 arrests connected to gang activity. The arrests that we made put pressure on these groups and helped us gather valuable intelligence. With this added pressure comes pushback. So now we are pushing back and taking our enforcement efforts a step further. Within the next week, we will finalize plans to combine our resources with the New Hanover County Sheriff's Office and create a 14-man or person housing unit. This unit will be made up of existing 7 Wilmington police officers who currently patrol 9 developments, and 7 deputies from the New Hanover County Sheriff's Department will be added to this unit. Expanding this unit will help us enhance patrol coverage in public housing areas. The creation of this unit, coupled with new strategies from the Wilmington Housing Authority, will help us rid these communities of the violent offenders. We will also expand our uniform patrol presence throughout the city of Wilmington in an effort to address the rash of armed robberies at area businesses as well as gang violence. The unit will be made up of non-patrol officers from the Wilmington Police Department and New Hanover County Sheriff's Office. 32 deputies and 32 Wilmington police officers will work intermittent schedules to provide expanded patrols throughout our community. To the citizens of Wilmington, you all have the right to feel safe where you work, where you live, and where you travel. Again, I want to applaud the efforts of our citizens. You have done a tremendous job in texting, calling, and emailing us with valuable information. We appreciate your commitment to helping us fight crime. I want to personally thank Sheriff McMahon, who is always for his willingness to partner with us and to make Wilmington a safer place. Thank you. Sheriff?
Thank you, Chief, and good afternoon. This is a community problem, and we are here today to show our support. There has just been a blatant disregard for the community and for safety in the past weeks and months. And now it's time, as the Chief said, that we're going to push back, and we are going to make this community a safer place. Hang on there and stay in there with the citizens, because we are committed to use our resources and everything we have to keep this and make this the safest community. And again, your police chief, Ralph, and I are committed to the end. We will be here. We will not go away. This is long term that we're talking about. And with that, I believe, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sheriff. Well, welcome members of the media and citizens. We thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to a very important announcement from our local regional law enforcement leaders. Crime does not know borders, doesn't know where the city of Wilmington's limits end and where the county begins. And so it's important that we all focus and work together and continue in the tradition that we have for many years of joining hand in hand to solve problems. And I speak for my board. I know the mayor speaks for his council when we say that we are united in effort, united in purpose. Wilmington is a safe community. This county and this region is a safe region. It always has been. But recent circumstances have called into question whether or not that's still the situation. We know it is, and And it's important that our citizens know that, but also in communities where you live, where crime is not taking place, where you don't wake up every morning hearing gunshots and go to sleep every night wondering, how does this affect you? Well, we're here today to try to convince this community as a whole that this is a community problem. It affects each and every one of us. When one of our citizens gets hurt, whether it's a police officer or an individual, is of no consequence. It's a citizen of our region and our community. And we have to band together and work together, not just with funding, but with effort, with narrative, with dialogue. We have to engage each other. And without that, the short-term problems that we're going to solve by this initiative are going to resurface with the passage of time. This is a long-term problem. It's cultural, and it does not know boundaries in neighborhoods. And I implore our citizens out there to get involved, reach out, volunteer. And I implore the communities where this crime is taking place more frequently to continue to work with your leaders. This is unacceptable, and the status quo is not something that any of us need to tolerate. I appreciate you all being here. I know I speak for my group when we say that we will do anything and everything to support the regional law enforcement officers and their tactics and their policies. They're important. They're the professionals, and we are behind them 100%.
I'd also like to echo what Chairman White just shared with you folks. We think it's very important that the entire community come together. We also have our DA, Ben David, that is with us here today. The Sheriff, thank you, Ed, for coming here and being supportive of Ralph. And Ralph, working with you, this is very important to our entire community, as Woody indicated. There is no boundaries here. It's not a city, this is not a county, this is the community. The community's got to come together to address this very important and serious issue. We have people out there that have a total disregard for the law, and they will shoot indiscriminately into houses in broad daylight, in the middle of the day. It's time we're going to put a stop to it, and we're going to use every resources, all the resources that are available to us to stop it. I know that it's not only the local folks that are involved in this, but we also have the state, and we also have the federal government that's involved in this whole initiative with us. We're going to put a stop to it one way or the other, and we're coming together as a community to address this issue. And I also want to thank my city council for the support they've given to the chief in anything that you need to combat this very important issue for our community. So thank you all for being here today, and I think that we'll take some questions.
Chief, given the fact that you guys are at several open positions right now, how are you going to handle this from a staffing perspective?
Well, we are actually 100% staffed. Most are in field training or in the final hiring process, so we actually are 100% staffed as of today. But all of these positions are coming from non-uniform positions. They'll be assigned intermittently over 2-week periods of time from detectives, property people, anyone who's not in a uniform assignment will be directed to put in patrol time out there in the field. And I think the sheriff, he can answer how he's going to find his 32 individuals.
Does that mean a drop off in services for other departments within your departments? I mean, people are going to hear that and say, so nobody's going to come check out my car that got stolen because they're busy looking for gangs?
No, sir. They may take a little longer to follow up on, let's say, a theft report or a vandalism report after it's filed. That may occur, but everything is priorities now. And priority is safety in the street, and safety in the neighborhood, and safety in people's homes.
Chief, you talked about this witness list that got into the wrong hands. Can you elaborate a little bit about how that occurred?
I understand during the discovery process that witness list was given to the defendant, who in turn put it out onto the street, and that list was used as a vehicle to retaliate against witnesses in an upcoming trial.
Who was the defendant?
I'm not going to say.
How long have you known about it?
We've been working on it since June.
Could you explain the timing of this expansion of this unit? I mean, you mentioned that this has been an ongoing issue since June, so why now? Why?
we've actually been working and talking together about how we're going to try to pull this off. And it's all staffing numbers, and I think the sheriff probably would talk better about that.
Sure. You know, like the chief mentioned, it's about priorities, and we have been talking and trying to work together, just kind of piecemeal. And you know, some recent events and the escalation of the violence, and in talking with the manager and talking with our chairman, we really began to say, hey, this is community, and then, you know, some recent events have brought that very close to home. And, you know, like I said, it's a blatant disregard for authority, for life.
How do you stop the cycle of retaliation once it starts? Because it seems like with these groups, you come after my guy, I'm coming after yours. How do you break that cycle?
I think a big part of it is with this initiative that we're doing, we're going to have officers in the community building relationships. Now, while the presence is there, will there be more arrests? Will there be some more things happening? Of course. But longer term, we're going to be making some friendships, some good things with the good citizens that are in these areas. So what we're going to do then is we're going to gain their trust. And we're going to show the criminal element that we will not tolerate this any longer. And then the good citizens are going to be empowered to help us and to assist us. And that's what we need. It's got to be the community. It can't just be us. It can't be something you just dump money into or people into. We've got to look long-term and at quality of life.
Sheriff, we had somebody, we tweeted out a story the other day and you identified the suspect. And somebody responded to that, I don't believe in ignorance, but I damn sure don't believe in snitching. How do you combat that?
It's a mindset. And like I said, I think what we need to do is we need to build relationships. And you need to realize that we're not talking about, you know, snitching, that somebody took a cookie or somebody cheated on a test or somebody did something. We're talking about people taking people's lives. We're talking about serious, violent crimes. So, you know, the community needs to realize, look, we have laws for a reason. And it's not a bad thing to inform the police to keep your community safer. But it's a process, and it starts with us getting in and building relationships and changing that mindset.
One of you mentioned that the federal government could be involved in some of this. How is that going to play out?
Well, we've been involved with some task force, and just they're committed as much as they can. Their resources are very limited. But what they do is they come in and they give us some added information, some added technology. They can reach out to different cities easier than us. So it's limited, but it's a great relationship that we have.
There's been talk recently a little bit about, this frankly is more for you than anything else, about maybe going with RICO charges instead of normal state charges. That's still on the table?
Thank you for the question. All options are on the table when we're talking about prioritizing what has to be the first priority of the courthouse, and that's going after violent criminals and career criminals committing any crime. I made a commitment to this community over 7 years ago, which has now become the standard throughout Eastern North Carolina in the Eastern District in the federal system, and that is cross-designating a prosecutor, a 20-year prosecutor, incidentally, to handle exclusively federal prosecutions. And that's taking the arrests primarily that these agencies make and going into the federal system with them. It gives us a couple of tools that you don't have at the state system, to be clear. We don't have an investigative grand jury function, for instance. They do at the federal level. They don't have the ability at the state level to go extraterritorial and go into other states in some cases with their investigations, where they do with the federal system. And then, of course, the laws that you're referring to, whether that's RICO or sentencing enhancements, mandatory minimums as we've looked at. We have done all of those things through the federal system in an act of great suppression. And that is going after the people that we believe are the most violent and creating the most havoc on the streets. We're going to continue to aggressively do that. In fact, we've doubled that capacity in my office, adding another prosecutor to that effort. But let me also say this. You know, what we're really underscoring today is not just that we're going tough on crime, because we have, hopefully you've seen, been doing that for quite some time. This partnership is working. There's a close collaboration that I've seen like never before since I've been district attorney between the sheriff and the police. That's a real partnership. The partnership we're talking about is one between law enforcement and the community. You know, the mayor and I co-chair the Blue Ribbon Commission on the Prevention of Youth Violence. That's an effort that works directly with these young men and women who are most likely to be at risk. I want you to think about changing your mindset from calling some of these areas a high crime area to a high victim area. Because when we're talking about an us against them mentality, what people who aren't snitching are really doing is picking the guy on the corner terrorizing his own neighborhood over his own grandmother. And that's the mindset we have to change, because she's the one currently living behind bars in her own home while this is festering in the streets. And so what we really need to do as a whole community is come together and speak up and say, we're not tolerating this. I challenge you, for instance, to run the records of some of these individuals who we've arrested for this gang activity. And what you'll find is many of them who are wreaking havoc in some of these public housing areas aren't residents there. The residents are the victims of this crime. They need to report it. And so that's what this effort is really all about, is making sure that this unit goes in community policing fashion to build those relationships and hopefully get the people who are most victimized by this crime not to tolerate it. And that's what this effort's all about, and we're going to continue to do.
Chief, earlier this summer, you made a big point about the Hines brothers and getting them off the streets, but since then, it seems things have only kind of gotten worse. Did they leave a vacuum in leadership among the gangs? And that's what we're hearing from some law enforcement sources.
There's a strong likelihood that occurred. One I do want to share with you, that we have 125 gang members in Randolph County Jail right now. 125. It shows you the depth of the problem. Okay. 125. So there is a vacuum out there. It's, like I said before, it's being fueled by drugs. It's being fueled by territory. It's being fueled by women. I mean, that's what the facts are. And it's being fueled by retaliation.
Any way to estimate how many we still have on the streets? You have 125 behind bars?
It's probably hundreds, but with this new gang unit that we're proposing, you know, we'll work in conjunction with sheriff's folks. We'll be able to get a real handle on that, understanding where they are and which gangs, who their associates are, and how they're laid out structurally as far as you know, who's at what level in these gangs, and then we can start really dismantling them using various criminal justice pieces in there to get them off the street. I mean, and that's what the longer-term strategy is going to be. This is a short-term fix to a long-term problem. I mean, we need to understand that.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chairman, what do you say to your constituents that are concerned about the safety of the community when they see it coming out of Creekwood and on Market Street, Forest Hills Drive, restaurants around town? We've had people asking us, is it safe to go out in Wilmington?
Well, I think the question, the answer to the question is yes, it's safe to go around Wilmington. I go around Wilmington all the time, and I feel very safe. But we do have these folks that are out here retaliating against each other and taking this fight in the middle of the street, in the middle of the day, on a Sunday afternoon, and anybody could be hit innocently. And this is what this is all about, is us getting out there and getting these folks off the street and getting them in jail where they belong. They have a total disregard for the law, they have a total disregard for themselves and the entire community. And when you have people shooting each other in the middle of the day, whether it's shooting at people's homes or whether it's somebody's house with a little child in there, we've got to do something, we've got to band together and work together, and this is what this is all about. So I say, first of all, yes, the community is safe, but we do have this as breaking out from different parts of the community, and we've got to address it and hit it head on. And that's what we're here to do today.